I think Beadle's About was a misguided programme, really. But having said that, it was just a joke, and it was clear that there was no malign intent involved in it. And let's be honest, it was funny. People do find the humiliation of other people funny. I suppose it's just part of human nature. But there's an important rider to it in that the humiliation should be harmless. It's just making fun of someone, it's not a serious situation.
That's my son's car. You put that over there.
Well, I didn't know it was your son's car. I've been here since 10 o'clock this morning
And
trying to get the
my son
shift
has been out here since 10 o'clock. I live there. We've never had no line.
Listen, baby,
I
don't
hope you
give
know
me...
you're going to get caught for that lot.
Dear, I've got big problems enough. Look at me, yellow lines in this rain.
Problem.
All I know is I'm supposed to be putting the double yellows down on the designated...
I'm terribly sorry about this, but he has actually got the right to do it.
Yeah.
What, on his car?
Well, no, not on the car, but you see, I'm from the council, and the car should have been moved, because everybody up to number 40...
But if you're not in and you've not had a letter through the door saying that you've got yellow lines, how the hell are we supposed to know they're going to put double yellow lines there?
You haven't had a letter?
None whatsoever.
I'm sorry,
Well, I've got to
madam.
get on with my double yellow lining. It's no good standing here having an argument.
But you still haven't. How would you like double yellow lines car because it was just there?
Well, it looks rather nice. It's rather trendy.
No,
I think.
don't get clever, love, or my fist will
I'm
be straight in your mouth. I really can't believe it. He'll go absolutely stare when he sees it.
So it's your son's car?
Yes.
Where is your son?
He had to go out and do some business over at Westbury Road and he parked here because there was no double yellow lines for
I
him to
see.
park on it.
But you see, you should have known that we're going to be
Yes.
double yellow lines, so
I
you
don't
shouldn't have let him
believe this,
park.
Mark.
As far as the council is concerned, you should have had this letter.
Here's my boy now. We've had
I'm
no
af-
letters down here at
I'm
all.
afraid...
Look at your car, Dan. I do not believe it, son. This here.
Double yellow lines.
I'm sorry, son. I really am sorry.
We know him at the council. We've had trouble with him before.
Oh, have you?
We have.
Very well.
So
Yeah.
your job's on the line, sunshine.
Yes. I'm the borough...
Job's on the line.
If you want any painting
My
done,
husband
any
happens to be
freelance
a
painting.
decorator, and my son happens to be a builder, so I don't need your touching. Oh, I suppose you're going to book him now, aren't you?
He's empowered to.
I shouldn't book him, sunshine. He's not on double yellow lines anyway, because he hasn't done the double yellow lines, so it's not on the double yellow lines. Thank you very much. I'm doing my
Just hold that, please. And if you just hold that, please. Just hold that. Thank you very much indeed. Now, what I wanted to actually...
Oh, you pig!
So what's the difference between what Jeremy Beadle did, or any practical joking, and what auditors do? Jeremy Beadle wasn't breaking the law. If a wall was demolished or somebody's car was painted with double yellow lines or something like that, this was done with the consent of the participants in the programme. In the case of the victim of a practical joke, consent was assumed. That did entail risk, and I can imagine in the case of Beadle's About, the programme makers will have faced some civil litigation, either for property damage or emotional distress, things like that, and they will have had to make payouts. They may have even had attention from the police. A key point, though, is that it was always made clear to the victim at the end that it was all a joke and everything was put back as it was. Crucially, the victim also had to give consent to the broadcast. If he didn't, and I suspect very many Jeremy Beadle stunts were never aired on the programme, if he didn't consent, then the stunt could not be broadcast and that was that. In other words, although there was an element of mischief and cruelty to it, otherwise it wouldn't be funny, let's face it, and although the programme makers were relying on assumed consent, ultimately the victim had the final say. Now, in a more mundane situation, say a workplace, there's a common cultural understanding in the air, or works almost by osmosis. It's assumed that an individual will have a certain sense of humour shared with everyone else. The same applies, I suppose, in intimate situations such as family. Nobody consents to a visit from an auditor, and he's turning up as a stranger. It's not as if the boss at a workplace has invited the auditor to turn up and make fun of his employees just as a laugh. Often incidents with auditors are dismissed as a joke in the end, even by victims, and all is well, or at least it appears that way, though I suspect often the victim chooses not to make much of it for fear of further embarrassment or being accused of making too much of it. Abusers often shame their victims in this way, and the claim from auditors and their supporters that it's all just a joke is a classic tell of an abuser. It's a form of gaslighting. Anyway, more often it's not treated as a joke, and the police or security or both have to be involved. People are being insulted on camera, which is not a matter to be taken lightly, as we all have feelings, and being humiliated in that way and having that broadcast is not nice. And there is a general undertone of malice to auditors. They ignore the essential laws concerning trespass and commit public order offences and so on. Finally, and most fundamental of all, the auditor does not obtain the victim's consent, indeed shows no respect at all for the emotional and psychological needs of a victim. He doesn't even tell the victim on which platform the encounter will be broadcast or when. That is vile and disgusting behaviour and makes auditing not a joke at all. I appreciate that in the process of showing you the true nature of what is going on, I have to reproduce the footage of these audits. But in doing so, I add balance to the picture by showing that the auditor is a rogue and his victims are usually doing nothing wrong. I'd like to close by offering two further general observations about the nature of comedy and humour. First of all, just because you find something funny, that doesn't make it a joke in other people's eyes. Humour is in the eye of the beholder, and that adage works both ways. We've all been in the situation where we've played a joke on somebody and it backfired. I've certainly experienced that. Or it didn't go down well and we have to admit that we end up as the butt of the joke as a result. I think that if auditing is comedy, then it's the auditors who are the joke. Another point I want to make is that even if some bit of mischief is genuinely intended as a joke, that is not a get-out clause from responsibility for your actions. If your intention was genuinely to joke around and you make this clear when things get out of hand, a view can be taken accordingly, but most of these auditors do not have that intention in the first place. Their actions are cruel and malicious. I will accept that filming somebody isn't the worst thing in the world, and some of the victims of auditors don't do themselves any favours by overreacting and approaching auditors with a bad attitude. But often these people have no choice or say in the exercise, either because the auditor is directly filming them while working, or the auditor is behaving in such a way that security or staff have little option but to approach him or call the police or both. That's no joke. Some people who defend auditors may respond to this by pointing to the example of Reggie who has put a comedic twist on auditing and gained many subscribers as a result. In some ways I like his channel and I have sometimes laughed at his videos, but practical jokes aren't just meant to be funny. They are also supposed to involve an element of consent, even if it takes the form of assumed consent beforehand, with clear consent to publication obtained after the event. If it's all a joke, Reggie would tell people who are captured on film where they can find his channel and what platform he's on, so they and their friends and family can all have a laugh at it. Does Reggie do that? Does he offer them the opportunity to refuse consent to have the video published on the platform? If the answer to those questions is no, then how's it a joke? What's funny about it? We can still laugh at it, we're only human. But on reflection, what he does isn't joking around, it's more a form of mischief, and publishing the recording of people caught in these situations without their consent and without telling them where it will be published isn't good behaviour and turns something that could be fun and light-hearted into something rather serious and concerning. Just to stress, I'm not lacking in a sense of humour.